someone in the psychiatric wing on Urban Horror Story Time. My name's Maya. I've been a nurse at St. Mary's Medical Center on the east side of Baltimore for almost 10 years now. If you know that part of town, you know the block. It's rough after dark. Sirens are like lullabies. The street lights hum like they got secrets, and even inside the hospital, it never really feels safe. You learn to keep your head down, move quiet, and never look too long at anything that don't make sense, 'cause here, everything got a story, and some of them you don't want to hear. It was a Friday night, long weekend ahead. Half the staff had already clocked out early. I was covering Ward D, the old rehab floor right next to the psychiatric wing. That wing had been shut down for years. Everybody in the building knew the story. Some patient attacked a doctor back in the early 2000s, then himself. Since then, the wing's been sealed up, or at least it was supposed to be. By midnight, the halls were quiet, the kind of quiet that don't sound peaceful, it sound wrong. The hum from the vents, the flicker of the exit lights, the way your footsteps echo off the tile like someone's walking just a step behind you. I was sitting at the nurse's station sipping cold coffee and scrolling patient charts when one of the hallway lights down near Psych flickered. That light had been out for months. Maintenance said the wiring was dead over there, but on the security monitor, the one pointed at the locked door to the psychiatric wing, I saw motion. A sensor light came on. Then a shadow, just a shape, moving across the frame, slow, steady, like somebody pacing inside the hallway. I stared at the screen so long I almost forgot to breathe, then it glitched and the image cut to static. I radioed down to security. No answer. I tried again. Nothing. Typical. The night guard always disappears after 1 in the morning, probably sitting in his booth half asleep, watching YouTube on his phone. Still, something in me said, don't ignore it. Hospitals don't just move by themselves. So I grabbed my flashlight and my key ring and headed down the corridor toward the psychiatric wing. That hallway was colder than it should have been. The lights above buzzed low like they were about to burn out. When I reached the door, my stomach dropped. The chain that sealed it, the one maintenance had bolted tight months ago, was hanging loose. The padlock was gone, snapped clean through. I should have called the cops right there, but something about hospitals at night makes you think you can handle anything. I pushed the door open just a little. The smell hit first mildew, bleach, and something old, like rust or dried blood. The air felt heavy. I stepped in. The light from my flashlight cut through the dark, bouncing off broken stretchers, overturned chairs, and peeling paint. And on the floor, I saw streaks, dark smears across the tile like something or someone had been dragged. Then I heard it, footsteps, slow, dragging, coming from deeper down the hall. I froze. Every sound in that place seemed to stop, the hum, the vents, even the air. Then from somewhere ahead I heard a man's voice, real calm, real close. "Who's there?" I called out. "This area's restricted. You can't be in here." No answer, just breathing. Then another sound, a door creaking open. I backed out fast, heart thumping against my ribs, locked the door with an old latch from the wall, and started heading back toward Ward D. Halfway there, one of the monitors at the nurse's station flickered back on. The camera feed now showed my hallway, and for a split second I saw somebody cross from one room to the next just barely in frame. No badge, no scrubs, just this tall figure in a hospital gown, and no shoes. Then static. I picked up the hospital phone to call 911. The line was dead. Tried my cell. No signal. That's when I heard screaming one of my patients. Room 312. I ran down the hall. He was sitting up in bed, eyes wide, shaking. "There's somebody in here," he whispered. I checked the room. Nothing. Door closed, window locked, curtain still. He just kept pointing toward the corner near the curtain. He was standing right there, about watching you. I looked up at the small security camera. The red light was off. I got my patient to settle down. When I got back to the station, I pulled up the live feed. The hallway was empty, but near the 312 door in the corner of the frame, something moved, like a figure sliding past the doorway and leaving. That's when it hit me. Whoever was in the psychiatric wing wasn't locked in anymore. I tried the security radio again. Finally someone answered, but it wasn't the guard. It was a man's voice, low, calm. Stop looking for me. Then silence. I dropped the radio. My hands were shaking so bad I could barely hold it. By 3 a.m. I made up my mind I had to get my patients out. There was a service elevator at the end of the corridor that led to the ER level, always unlocked. I started wheeling Mr. Daniels, the man from room 312, toward it. The emergency lights were dim, flickering like dying candles. Halfway down, I heard metal clatter. Something rolled across the floor and hit my shoe. A surgical tool, an old pair of clamps covered in something dark and sticky. I looked back. The hallway behind me was empty, but I could feel him. Daniels whispered, "He's following us." When we reached the elevator, the call light was dead. I started pressing it anyway, panic rising in my throat. Then a door creaked open behind me, and a voice said, "Ma'am, you shouldn't be down here." I turned. A man stood at the end of the corridor. Blue scrubs, surgical mask hanging off one ear, no ID, just that same calm voice. "You went into the wing." I backed up. "Who are you?" He didn't answer. He just started walking toward me, slow, steady, like he had all the time in the world. I ran, pushing the wheelchair as fast as I could until it caught a crack in the floor. It flipped. Daniel screamed. I didn't look back. I ducked into an old storage room, slammed the door, and turned the lock. The footsteps came right up to the door, stopped. The handle twisted. Once, twice, then silence. I stayed in that room until sunrise. When I came out, the hall was empty, the wheelchair on its side, no sign of Daniels. Security finally showed up around 7. They said there was no one on the cameras, no forced entry. And when maintenance checked the psychiatric wing, they found the second chain broken, door wide open, and a blanket on the floor like somebody had been sleeping there for weeks. A few days later, the city paper ran a small story. Unidentified man found hiding in abandoned hospital wing, believed to be mentally unstable, no ID, no records, just a stolen uniform and a set of old master keys. They said he was harmless, off his meds, but I know what I saw, that calm voice, those eyes, and some nights when my fridge hums in the dark, same as those hospital lights. I still hear him whispering in the back of my head, "You shouldn't have gone into the wing," and sometimes I swear I hear footsteps in my hallway, slow, careful, like he finally found his way out. This story gave me chills. What about you? Drop your thoughts in the comment. And if you love true horror, please hit that subscribe button. New nightmares drop every week on the YouTube channel Sites of Horror. After Hours at Miller's Market, Urban Horror Story. My name's Aaliyah. I used to think the late shift at Miller's Market was easy money. Quiet nights, no customers, just me, my music, and the hum of the freezers. Nothing ever really happened around there, until the night it did. Miller's Market been on the same corner of 85th and Halsted for as long as I can remember, one of those old neighborhood stores with bulletproof glass at the register and faded posters from 2009 still hanging by the lotto machine. Folks around here call it the market, but it's really just survival. Cheap groceries, loose cigarettes, EBT line always long, and at night, the kind of place that feel like it's breathing when it gets too quiet. That Thursday night I was the only one scheduled. Everybody else called out Reggie. My manager said his baby was sick and he had to leave early. Tyrone texted that his car wouldn't start. So it was just me. He tossed me the keys before leaving and said, "Just lock up when you're done, Shorty. Don't let nobody in after 10. No problem. I'd done it before. The store lights hummed soft, cold. It was one of those steady rains outside, the kind that made the streets shine like black glass. Around midnight I was restocking the chip aisle, sour cream and onion barbecue, the usual, when I heard a sound from the back room. Clank. Metal against metal. I froze, told myself it was just the compressor or maybe one of the rolling carts shifting, but then I heard it again, slower this time, like someone dragging something heavy across the floor. I grabbed my phone, flashlight on, and pushed through the double doors to the stockroom. Soon as I stepped in, the air changed. Colder. Smelled like wet cardboard and bleach. The lights in there always flickered, but tonight they were worse. Buzzing, then dimming out, leaving everything gray and half-shadowed. "Hello?" My voice echoed back too loud in that kind of quiet. Nothing. Then I noticed the loading dock door, the one that's supposed to stay locked after 9. It was halfway open, rain tapping on the metal, and the latch snapped clean. That's when my chest got tight. Somebody had been in there, maybe still was. I backed up slow, trying not to breathe too loud. Pulled out my phone to call Reggie No Bars. The stockroom was a dead zone, so I went to the office at the front. There's a landline in there, old, dusty, but it works. Or it used to. When I picked it up, no dial tone, just static. I jiggled the cord, still dead, and then I heard it. Footsteps, soft, dragging, coming from the aisles. I cut the office light off and crouched by the window. The aisles were dim, rows of products glowing under the emergency lights. Then squeak, a shopping cart, one long, slow push, then silence, another squeak, closer this time, then stop. I could feel my heart thudding in my neck. I ducked lower, trying to see movement, but the only thing moving was that damn ceiling fan spinning lazy. I told myself I was tripping, probably a stray cart rolling from the slope in the floor, but then I heard breathing, not mine. Not far. That's when I decided to make a run for the emergency exit by the freezer aisle. It's the only door that isn't locked by alarm at night. I crept out the office, keeping low. The lights buzzed overhead, flickering like they were nervous too. When I got halfway down the aisle, I caught movement in the freezer reflection, a tall shadow, right behind me. I turned around, nobody. The freezers kept humming, and my reflection looked back at me, face filled with fear, eyes wide. Then something moved again, this time behind the glass, like a dark figure walking past the freezer doors. I ran. When I hit the emergency door, I slammed the bar. Nothing. It didn't move. The red light blinked overhead. Emergency lockdown engaged. My throat went dry. We'd had an electrical issue last week, but Reggie never fixed it. Now I was locked in. Somewhere behind me, a cart hit the shelf. I turned my light. The cart, it was just laying there in the middle of the aisle, wheels turned sideways like it had been shoved. I backed away, slow, until I bumped into the self-checkout. That's when I saw him, a tall man, dark hoodie, gloves, face half-shadowed. He stood at the end of aisle 9, didn't move, didn't say a word. Then he tilted his head and started walking toward me. I ducked behind the checkout counter, heart beating in my throat. The man's steps were steady, not fast, not slow, just sure. I looked around for anything to defend myself, grabbed a box cutter from the counter. The sound stopped, silence, then a whisper, low, calm, right on the other side of the counter. "You should have kept that door locked." My knees went weak. I crawled backward toward the break room. It had a lock. Maybe I could call out from there. I slipped inside, slammed the door, twisted the bolt. The smell of burnt coffee and cheap air freshener filled the air. The vending machine buzzed faint, glowing blue. I sat on the floor, clutching my phone. Still no service. Minutes crawled by. Then came that sound, a slow scrape along the door, like metal on metal. Then a whisper again. Right outside. "Don't hide from me now." I covered my mouth, shaking. The sound stopped. Footsteps faded. I waited and waited until I couldn't hear a thing. It was nearly 4 a.m. when the hum of the freezers cut off completely. Power flickered. The only light left was the red glow from the vending machine. Then click. The door handle turned. I froze. Then bang. The door rattled hard. Again. "Who's there?" I screamed. No answer. Just one last bang. Then silence. I couldn't wait any more. I remembered the small tunnel behind the bakery freezer, the one the old head Tony used to use for trash runs. Manual latch, no electronics. I slipped out, tiptoeing through the dark aisles. The main lights were dead now. Only the red exit signs glowed. The aisles looked wrong, stretched, endless. Then that sound came again. Squeak, roll, stop. A shopping cart stood dead center in the aisle. Empty, but on the handle I saw something dark. Blood. I bolted through the bakery tunnel, yanked the latch, and burst out into the rain behind the store. Didn't stop running until I hit the street. A delivery truck came flying down the block, brakes squealing. Tony jumped out, eyes wide. "Aaliyah, the hell you doing out here this time of morning?" I pointed at the store, gasping, "Somebody's inside." He called the cops. They searched for hours, said they didn't find nobody. The lock on the dock door said it'd been broken for days. The blood just rust, they said. And the carts? Back in their place. They looked at me like I was crazy. But that ain't the end. When I got home around 6:30 a.m., I jumped straight in the shower. My hands were shaking so bad I dropped the soap twice. When I looked up in the mirror, I saw a smudge on my wrist, a fingerprint. Greasy, dark, not mine. I scrubbed it off and told myself I was tripping. But that night, as I was dozing off, I heard it. Squeak, roll, stop, right outside my bedroom door. I sat up, heart pounding. Opened the door. Nothing, just the faint smell of detergent. Next morning, Reggie called. "Aaliyah, you come back to the store this morning after the police left?" I said no. He went quiet for a second, then he whispered, "Then why was the front lights on and the front door unlocked? I quit that morning." A week later, I drove past Miller's Market after getting off of my new job around 2 a.m., rain coming down again. The store looked empty, dark, except one light. Aisle 5, flickering. I slowed the car, stared through the glass. At first I thought I was seeing my reflection, but then I saw it, a shopping cart rolling forward. Squeak, roll, stop, and standing behind it, a tall man, still as stone. Then the light went out, whole store dropped into black. Later that morning I stopped by just to prove to myself it was all in my head. The market was bright, busy, loud, kids laughing, music playing, but when I went down aisle 5, my stomach dropped. Scratched into the metal shelf 2 fresh words, "Hello, Aaliyah." Now every time I hear that sound, a shopping cart squeak in the parking lot, or the wheels rolling behind me in a store, I freeze. Because I know what I heard that night, I know what I saw, and I know he's still there, waiting, after hours, at Miller's Market. If this story kept you awake tonight, you're not alone. Make sure you subscribe to Sites of Horror for more true urban horror stories that hit closer to home than you think. Because sometimes the city don't sleep, and neither does what's watching it. The night shift never ends. Urban horror story time. It started with the lock clicking behind me, and I hadn't locked the door. This happened when I was 28. My name's Andre, and back then I worked the graveyard shift at this little corner bodega on the east side, one of those 24-hour joints where the fluorescent lights never take a lunch break, and the coffee tastes like somebody filtered it through their regrets. I worked nights because the money was steady, and the day crowd didn't do it for me. Nights had their own rules. Nights felt like mine. That's what I thought anyway. Man, listen, the first 30 seconds after that lock clicked behind me felt like a slow-motion heart attack. The fridge hummed. The fluorescent lights buzzed like they were whispering something I wasn't supposed to hear. And somewhere down the block, a siren started learning a new melody. I stood there, damp rag in my hand, staring at that back door like it owed me rent. It was supposed to be quiet at that hour, always quiet between 3 and 5 a.m., but the air felt wrong, not loud wrong, quiet wrong, like somebody dragging velvet over a mirror. I locked the front gate for customers, the metal latch thudding like a warning. Told myself it was nothing. We got our share of weirdos, folks trying to sleep in the aisles, somebody begging for gas money when they ain't got no car. But that night, the dread didn't fade. It pooled. Still, I shrugged it off. You learn to ignore a lot when the night keeps paying you. He came in around 2:10, tall, bundled tight in a coat too heavy for spring, hands buried in his pockets like he was hiding something colder than the air outside. He pushed the door slow, didn't meet my eyes, walked straight to the register while I scanned a pack of cigarettes and a Red Bull for him. His scent hit first, old smoke, something sweet like cheap cologne, and winter air that didn't match the month. Anything else? I asked. He didn't speak, just nodded once, paid with a wrinkled bill, and walked out without a thank you. Looked normal. 15 minutes later, his car rolled past. You could hear it coming before you saw it, low rumble, like somebody humming through an engine block. He crawled down the block slow, hit the corner, looped back. I watched him through the glass. He pulled into the lot, parked in the shadow, and stayed there. I told myself he was waiting on somebody, told myself the night makes small things feel big, stocked shelves to distract myself. But by the third time he looped around, my stomach flipped. I had two dudes at the counter arguing over a scratch-off ticket, but my eyes kept drifting to that window. He leaned his elbow out the driver's window and smoked like he had nowhere to be, watching the store like he was studying it. The streetlight hit his face just right, made him look older, harder. He stayed 20 minutes, then 40. Each loop around the block slowed down, like he was setting a metronome. 1, 2, 3, replay. I texted my manager, Nia, the day shift queen, and she hit me with people crews. Don't turn it into something easy for her to say. She didn't work nights. She didn't hear the silent swish of tires that sounded like they had a destination and a purpose. She told me to call the cops if I felt unsafe. I didn't. Around 4 o'clock in the morning, the usual night noises thinned out. That's when the city takes a breath. The temp dipped. Rain threatened but held back. And that's when he walked in again. This time, he didn't buy a thing. Just slid past the snacks and leaned against the freezer like he owned the place. Up close, his eyes were the color of tired pennies. Flat, small, watching everything. You closed to the public, he asked. Still open, I said. He smiled like he'd just scratched off a winning number. You work alone? Tonight. Manager's out. I kept my voice steady. Folks like him, folks who scan you for weakness, you gotta sound like you're backed by something even when you ain't. I kept one hand near the register, the other close to my phone. My body moved through muscle memory, open cash drawer, count till. Slide receipt. Habits make you safe. He drifted through the aisles like he was shopping for information, asking me about my schedule, what time I left, where I lived, questions that pretend to be friendly until they aren't. Why you ask? I said. He shrugged. You look like you handle yourself. Might be good to know. My skin crawled. I told him we had cameras. He smiled again, this time too slow, like cameras didn't change a single plan he had. Then he left. 4:45 in the morning, car crawling away like it didn't want to lose sight of the store. I closed early at 5. Back tight, nerves buzzing, I locked the back door, same one that clicked earlier. Then a knock. Not frantic, not polite, just steady. Right hand fist, slow. He was pressed against the front glass, 4 feet away. He smiled with only his mouth. Hey, man, you got a minute? I didn't move, didn't breathe right. We're closed, I said. He tapped the glass again. I just want to talk here, because I wasn't about to be the fool who unlocked a door at 5 in the morning. He stepped back, walked to his car, sat there like he was waiting for permission to leave. Rain finally started falling, soft at first, then heavy enough to smother every other sound. On my way home, the streetlights felt too long. Every shadow stretched. I locked my apartment door, double-checked the chain, tried to breathe. At 7:20 a.m., I woke up from a nap on the floor by the door. Phone buzzing. Unknown number. See you tonight. My first thought, find the sender. Second call, the cops. I did neither. I went straight to the mattress, reached under, grabbed my piece little pistol I rarely touched. My hand was shaking as I tucked it into my bag. I told myself to be smart. I didn't tell anyone. The next night he showed at 1:05 a.m. clockwork, but he wasn't alone. Passenger seat another man, back seat a woman in a hoodie, face half hidden, all three watching the store like a choir waiting on their cue. He didn't come inside this time, just leaned against the glass, smoking, flicking ash in perfect rhythm. I stepped outside for air, Lot still wet from the city's last breath. He slipped out of the car and drifted toward the dumpster in the shadow, like he wanted me to follow with my eyes even if I didn't follow with my feet. "You gonna work tonight?" he asked. "Yeah." "You look tired, Andre." He said my name. I never gave it to him. My chest dropped clean to my shoes. "You know me?" I asked. "You know me by face now." He shrugged. "I've been around." "You treating the parking lot like your living room now?" Tried to sound playful. Came out wrong. He stepped closer. Slow, confident. Close enough for me to see a tiny scar near his lip, one that split when he was young. Close enough for me to smell him. Smoke, and something metallic, like coins, or blood. "Listen," he said quietly. "You take care of yourself, right? Don't be walking home alone with them headphones in." A warning that didn't sound like protection, sounded like a confession. I told him I had a ride. Didn't matter if I did or not. When I went back inside, my hands shook harder every time the door chimed. At some point he vanished. Lot empty, just wet asphalt and stray trash bags. I almost laughed, almost convinced myself I was tripping. That exhaustion was messing with me. But at 3:30, the store lights flickered, went out for 2 seconds. When they came back, one cigarette was missing from behind the register, just one. The camera caught everything. There he was, reaching over the counter like he had all the time in the world, looking dead at the camera and smiling, a message. Then he walked out. I called my cousin at 4 o'clock. Big dude, beard thick, hands like cinder blocks, the type of presence the night respects. He sat with me till close, no questions, just eyes on the lot. Around 5, some man walked up and placed a matchbook on the window. No knock, no words. Matchbook had the store's name, and under it, "Not alone." We brought the tape to a detective. He said he'd keep an eye out. Didn't feel like protection, felt like paperwork we couldn't shut down. Bills didn't care. 2 nights later, my cousin wasn't on shift, but he came anyway. At 2 a.m., that heavy coat rolled up again. Not one guy, this time 4. They moved in pairs, like a formation. The scar man pressed his hand to the glass, smiling, tapped twice, paused, tapped again. A code, a summons, a test. My cousin moved to the side door, cracked it open, stared at them through that thin slice of night. They backed away, walked to their car, drove off slow enough to let the threat sit in the air. Morning hit. We rode the bus together. Cousin told me to quit nights, find daylight, stop pretending this was normal. I wanted to listen. I didn't. That night I worked alone again at 3:50. Some skinny kid, maybe 17, leaned on my car, eyes glassy, jacket too thin for the rain. He stared at me like he was carrying somebody else's secrets. I let him go. Didn't know why. Maybe the night had made me soft. Maybe I was tired of being a fortress. At 4:30, the kid spoke. Not through a phone, not through the intercom, just loud enough for me to hear across the lot. "You sleep. They watching." Then he walked off, left a small pack of sunflower seeds on my hood, like a warning offering. I never saw the scar man again, not close anyway, but the cars kept circling some nights, cold headlights sweeping across the glass like fingers. The text stopped, then came back. One night I closed up, stepped outside, and my phone buzzed. A picture. Me, walking out the store, time-stamped 2 minutes earlier, shot from the dark. That was enough. I didn't make a scene, didn't pack a dramatic bag, saved what I could, left on a Tuesday morning before my shift, quiet, simple. I kept the store key in a box with receipts, changed routes, moved neighborhoods, drawn curtains became a habit. And here's what stays with you. Sometimes I see taillights on a wet street and my chest tightens. Sometimes I dream of someone knocking on glass. Sometimes I still wake up just to lock the door twice. The scar man never had to break in, never had to follow me home. His knowing was the violence. If you work nights, listen to me. The city teaches you to be brave. But brave ain't the same as blind. Watch the patterns. Pay attention when the rhythm changes. Don't let quiet wrong grow roots. Survival ain't always running. Sometimes it's leaving before the daylight tells you it's okay. And me, I escaped. I kept my name, kept my teeth, but the night leaves marks no mirror shows. And it all started with that sound, that lock clicking behind me when I hadn't touched the door. You listened all the way through. That means you're part of this now. Like the video, share it and let somebody else hear what lurks outside their window tonight. See you back here on the YouTube channel, Sights of Horror.